Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the SHR Media Network. This is the Edge of Liberty simulcast with our good friends over at KLRN. Speaking of which, Rick is in the chat. Good evening, Rick. But he wasn't first. No. The Phantom was first to chat tonight. Thank you to the Phantom. BZ's here. Fourth place. Sorry. Mission Ready Men beat you to the punch. So we have the top three crowns already handed out for the show. A lot to talk about this evening. First and foremost, and this wasn't on my list of things to talk about, but it's kind of a huge deal. President Trump's in South Korea right now and just met with the just met with the Chinese President Xi, discussing trade deals. Trump's trip to Asia has been pretty successful so far, apparently. If you go to shrmedia.com, we have a few articles there about Trump's trip to Asia. We're going to keep an eye on that. We'll update that as well. As a reminder to what Democrats feel about the shutdown, day 29, they stayed closed again. The Democrats are amazing. And because they're trying to essentially sneak through all of these other bills, they're getting crushed in the polling on the shutdown. And they know that, right? They know they're getting crushed. So now they're trying to fund things that if they don't fund, it's going to crush them more. And as a reminder to everybody, all they have to do is sign a CR. It's a clean CR on funding they've already voted for. All of this other gallivanting, parading, play acting, kabuki theater bullshit that they're doing, throwing out these, well, we'll fund this one thing and we can fund that other thing, whatever. It's all horse shit because they're trying to save themselves from doing what I think is going to happen finally Friday, which is going to be they're going to vote to open the government. And I bet I'm thinking it's going to be Friday. I think that the Democrats, look, you have elections coming up in just a few days in which you have Democrats who, even if it's state and local elections, it does affect them. And I think that you're going to see some movement here in the next couple of days. I truly do, because they're offering all of these bills. They want to fund just just SNAP and then just WIC and then just this and then just that, which essentially turns it into the CR that they could just sign, that they've signed 13 before. And most of the Democrats that are there now approved the spending level before. Ordy's in the chat. Ricky, as I said, is in the chat. Ordy says he's first, as always. First in my heart, Ordy, first in my heart. So yeah, I don't think, and we've been covering and carrying the live Senate floor feed here on SHR Media during the day. I don't think this shutdown's going to go past Friday. I think the Democrats are finally going to be pushed into a corner in which they absolutely just have to sign the CR. And look, they're phrasing this. If you watch their approach on all of this, they're phrasing this like the CR is the actual big, beautiful bill, spending bill that will actually fund the government beyond the CR, the actual budget, and they're going to do it through appropriations, right? Rick, it's not the same type of heart that you're thinking of. Rick asked if massholes have hearts because I said Orty would always be in my heart first. And and he then went on to explain that it's part of his KLRN network to say he's first. So therefore, yeah, I think therefore I understand now. So you're not necessarily in my heart if you're doing this out of pure obligation. BZ's thinking the Democrats ignore the November 1st. I don't, BZ. I was watching them today all day. Hey, were you calling me an Ars Phantom in the chat, or were you asking a general biology question? Either way, I'm concerned. I'm not going to lie. If you've watched them the last couple days, they're tipping their hand. They're showing what they notoriously do well in, what areas snap and stuff like that. The people that would notoriously be voters. Look, they lost the biggest federal union. The biggest federal union. I don't remember the acronym for it right now. We'll just call it the federal union. Is pissed, and I mean pissed at the Democrats, and have gone to them and told them to open the government. Like I said, SNAP benefits coming up, that's going to hurt them because let's face it, and there's a huge, I did an article and op-ed on SHR Media as well about the shutdown. Let's face it, a lot of the people on SNAP benefits vote Democrat. A lot of people understand that the Democrats are the ones who are holding up a clean CR because they want funding for Ugandan trans television, Iraqi trans television, whatever, and to fund illegals in the healthcare system. And the Republicans are saying no. And it's going to happen. They're going to try to put dates ending those specific fundings that they're trying to slip into the CR. That's going to go 2 years down the road and all this other BS. It's just going to be pork filled, and they're not, to the Republicans' credit, they're not taking the bait. They're not being quote unquote shamed into it, and they shouldn't be. This is a CR. It's simple. It's easy. It's not hard. It's happened 13 times more on this level of funding. The Democrats have signed on to those. There's no absolutely. Hey, Mike Pasqua's in the chat. Mike, thank you. There's absolutely no reason for them not to open this, other than the fact that they want all sorts of special things that don't need to be in there, plain and simple. So I think it's going to be by Friday. I think they're going to break. I know some people disagree with that, but I just watching them today and their little, I don't want to call it a mini filibuster, but they had a whole bunch of people up today talking about it and all the different programs that they could pass and all these little tiny bills that they could pass to fund during the shutdown. Well, if you can fund it during the shutdown, and why are you picking winners and losers? Well, we're going to fund SNAP, and then we're going to fund this, but we're not going to fund that and the other thing. Why are you picking winners and losers? Just fund the fucking CR. It's not hard. This is not a difficult thing to do. Look, I said before on the air and in articles, I hate continuing resolutions. That shows me that Congress has failed to do its job when you get a CR. I mean, you blame Congress. They're the ones that put the desk on the president's bill, as far as I'm concerned. That's my personal opinion. I know other people have others, and I don't give a shit. But when you get to a CR, after the House, however long it took them, and they pushed it to the last minute, yes. But they actually did it through appropriations. They actually did it the right way for the first time since, Clinton was smoking cigars and Monica Lewinsky. It's incredible that the Senate got this and the Democrats just didn't do shit with it. They wouldn't fund it. It takes 60 votes, by the way, in a funding bill to pass it. So when the Democrats are out there saying, well, they hold the House, they hold the Senate, they hold the executive. Yeah, but a funding bill takes 60 votes. We have 63? You have 3 sane people on your side? So, yeah. You know what I mean, Ricky Robinson. So, yeah, I think the Democrats, and if you look at, I mean, they're polling as low as 17% in some polls. If they don't open this government, I think by Friday, I think that hurts Mandami, and he's the golden goose for them right now, which is ironic all by itself. I think it hurts him because that's going to be snap people in New York City, and he's a Democrat, and maybe that's the I don't know. I mean, the Democrats. Look, I was talking about this with somebody today too, with Mandami. The Democrats, look at what they did to Bernie, right? Bernie was the original socialist running for high office, and they undercut him. And I know they're all out there campaigning for him and, oh, we love this guy and blah, 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 blah. But the actions will prove how they actually feel about Mandami if they're willing to cede power to the socialist part of the Democratic Party, which is about 20% of the party now. By the way, socialism is communism. We all know that. Communism is just a party within socialism. So it goes hand in hand. Socialism, communism, it's all the same. I know people are calling him the Islamo-communist. He is a terrible, terrible candidate. He's a terrible human being, but New York gets what it votes for. However that shakes out, it gets what they vote for. And look, I didn't think he had a chance. I said that time and again. It's the numbers have locked up a little bit. They've gotten closer. They're not, some people are saying they're close to the margin of error, which is not the margin of error. I mean, we all know that. Hey, HB Pundits in the Facebook chat. HB Pundit, thank you. The party's over in the YouTube chat if you want to jump over there. But good evening, sir, an old friend of SHR Media and myself, Danny Butcher. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if the state and local elections, you have a governorship in New York that are happening early next week. You have a lot of state and local elections that kind of will matter. Prop 50, not that, and again, not that Prop 50 is necessarily a big deal nationwide, because if the Supreme Court gets rid of Article 3 of the Voters' Right Act, then it's going to offset by 14 to 19, depending on who you're talking to. And that 5-5 wash with Texas isn't going to help the Democrats. And we all know that Gavin, who I will talk about later in the show, is just doing this to bolster his presidential race to win the primary. That's all Prop 50 is. I talked about that, 2 weeks ago. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Democrats reverse direction and all of a sudden turn it, and they're going to phrase it. Oh, Cosmic Bard's in the chat. Cosmic Bard, good evening. Here's how they're going to phrase it. They're going to say, because they care so much about the people and the Republicans just don't, and they had to sign this CR just so they could start having the conversation again and take care of the people first, because the Republicans won't care, but they're stonewalling. And the only way we could sign this CR now is to take care of you people who are going to lose snap. They will not say the truth. And the truth is they're being assholes. They thought this was going to hurt Trump. He's gone up in polling. This has hurt their specific numbers as a Congress and specifically the Democrats. So they're going to break. It's all in there going against the Democrats right now. And when you turn around and you have like the woman who I showed earlier, the whip there for the Democrats out of Massachusetts, who's saying, well, it's the only leverage we have, and we have to use that. So it's important. In other words, you ordinary people suck, and you're going to have to deal with it. Ordy said in the chat, Prop 50 is bigger than that. If it passes, the legislation will never see. Oh, yeah. No. 100%, Ordy, I agree with you. The Prop 50 is written that it never goes back to the commissions, the voting commissions. I do understand that. I was talking, that's the subversive part of it. I was just talking on the forefront, what's actually going to change numbers, because people aren't paying attention to those details. And I talked about that when I did the whole show on Prop 50, or at least half the show on Prop 50 a couple weeks ago. And I'm still not convinced Prop 50 is going to pass. You have even some Democrats, you had Democratic members of the commission who are saying that if this passes it, we'll never get it back. So yeah, Prop 50 in itself is a shit show, but I'm just talking about nationally, power in the House. It's a wash if SCOTUS votes how it looks like they're going to vote. Speaking of unruly Dems, and I'm going to get to the 764 network here shortly. Speaking of unruly Dems, you're going to love this. Oh, done myself a dirty. There we go.
November 5th in Washington, D.C., the largest sustained protest in Washington, D.C.'s history. This needs to be what happens right now. Organizing millions of people to get to Washington, D.C., stand and surround the White House, surround the Capitol building, surround the illegitimately fascist Supreme Court, and not stop until the Trump regime is driven from power. We start on the 5th, we go to the 6th, we go to the 7th, we go to the 8th. We keep pushing every day, building and growing our numbers until masses of people are standing around the White House, around the Capitol building, around this fascistly packed Supreme Court until we drive the Trump fascist regime from power. Like I said, I'm with Carlos. We can't get washed away with trying to take on too much, trying to take on this and then that and then this, and trying to do everything all at once. We need to unify behind one simple demand. One simple demand is Trump must go now. Again, we cannot wait for election cycles, politicians, or the Supreme Court. We need to rise up.
Golly, folks. Yeah, you know. I love the fact that if you remember back and look at January 6th, like I said, I have my issues with how some things went down just because of where it was. And but if you look at January 6th, we were at a point where we weren't sure if an election was legitimate or not. Not going to get into all of that portion of it. People were there for the most part, minus the Democrats and maybe the FBI. People were there to support the fact that they just wanted to make sure the election was fair. Yes, people got out of control. Some bad things happened. The FBI was there. There was a lot of antagonizers there who were really Antifa and Democrats dressed up as conservatives. We all saw the pictures. Yada, 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 yada. This is different. What you just saw is the president's only a year in. This is not at near the election, the end of the election. This isn't them trying to say, well, we're there to make sure he's leave. No, they want to start a protest outside the White House demanding he gets removed from power. And depending on how many people show up for that and how much money Soros can kick into it, yeah. That could get interesting very quick. So let's worry about that. Ricky Robinson, no one wants to know how you spend your free time. This is true. I don't even like to talk about how I spend my free time. It's kind of sad, actually. Rick's, I'll say it was not, but I don't remember what you were talking about. And BZ's comment, well, now that will be interesting. Millions around the White House. Fat fucking chance. Well, yeah, and the removal of SCOTUS is the other thing that they're demanding. I don't think they'll get the numbers. I don't think people will show up, but the fact that they're calling for it, gosh, we were just calling to make sure that an election was fair and certified for the most part. Those of us who were having issues getting the information that we wanted. They're calling for the removal of the president and SCOTUS, not via an election or voting or even some sort of weird special election. Oh, 2020 was not a free and fair election. Yeah, Ricky, like I said, we could do a whole show on that. And we probably have, to be honest with you. I don't remember anymore. But I don't see how any liberal, any Democrat, even the pundits, and I know they're going to, are going to support that because, like BZ just said in the chat, it sounds like a coup. No, that is a coup. I mean, that is a planned coup, whether you like it or not. And that's a planned coup. They're going there with the intention of removing the president and SCOTUS. How many people are going to show up? How many people want their faces involved? That who knows? Like I said, it depends on how much money Soros can pump into that little program and other, it's not just Soros. There are other people that fund all those little protests. So coming up on the break, I did want to touch about this real quick, and I know I had never heard of this until today, and maybe that's on me, but the 764 network. I saw a thing online that said the Federal Bureau of Investigation is warning and the Department of Justice have confirmed arrests and ongoing investigations into a global online exploitation ring known as 764. The group operates across encrypted apps and gaming platforms, coercing minors into self-harm, and sexual exploitation. Described by DOJ as a network of nihilist, violent extremists seeking to corrupt and destabilize society through exploitation. Now, I talked about like 2 months ago, Roblox and how dangerous Roblox was. I didn't do a huge portion on it, but because of stuff like this that was being reported to have happened in Roblox. And actually, there was a couple of YouTubers, I can't remember the name off the top of their head, who exposed it and were banned from Roblox. And Roblox did absolutely nothing whatsoever to stop it. So 764 blends child exploitation, psychological manipulation, and extremist ideology. Raise questions about free speech and online policing. Well, no, that these organizations need to police themselves. These companies. It's much bigger than you're letting on, and I get a whole write up here for this. Here we go. There's been arrests made in Greece, North Carolina, Queens, New York, and Michigan. Those arrests were for child exploitation, grooming charges, firearm possession, and the list goes on and on. So essentially, they use Discord, Telegram, and other encrypted servers. They recruit minors through gaming platforms, Roblox, and other ones, I'm sure, coerce them into acts of self-harm and exploitation. It's probably young women. Recent but I'm sure males as well. And they're saying that this is a high security priority and that it's unbelievably active. Networks use encrypted messages. Extremist elements reported, including neo-Nazi and nihilistic ideology, operates internationally with desensitized leadership, kind of like Antifa does as well. And I'm not throwing that out like a big, it could be Antifa. No, it's just Antifa operates in that same sort of manner. But this brings up the point of being aware of what your children are doing online and what they're talking to online. I am not a computer expert. I'm certainly not a systems expert or a network expert. But there's a bunch of tools that you can use as a parent. I have 2 young children. That can make it easier to understand what they're doing online. There are plenty of apps that, essentially, if your children try to uninstall, it bricks their phone. You can get into how your router works and be aware of what websites your kids are going on. And you can limit websites as well. You have that power as a parent. You're paying for this. If you're allowing your child to have a phone or gaming, and especially if they're in that young, vulnerable age, that 10, 11 to 17, 18, obviously once they're adults, if they're paying for their phone, whatever, if they're not paying for it, remember, if you're paying for their phone and they're 18, you can still have power. But like Orty said, they're doing things like having their children kill their own pets and then recording it, taking pictures of themselves in compromising situations and recording it. All of this is frightening and tragic. And these are the threats that our kids face today. The Phantom, who's probably the youngest in the chat room. Oh yeah, Roblox under fire because the YouTuber Gotten. I think you're right. I think his name was Gotten, wasn't it? But he led to the arrest of 6 pedophiles, and Roblox blamed him for exposing it and making them look bad. High Plains Pundit in the chat. Never share pictures of your kids and grandkids on social media. Yeah, I'm for that too. I absolutely limit what I share. I know I can't control other people, but I limit what I share just for that reason. Cosmic Bard in the chat, being a server administrator, all I had to do was show my son the keylogged interaction he had with his friend 6 years ago, and he has not strayed since. Yeah, no, you have the power. And look, as evil as the internet can be great. It can be awesome. It can be educational. It can be fun. There's no problem with gaming. I don't have any issues with kids gaming. But as the adult, you have to be out ahead of the problems. There is a dark side to the internet, as we all know. There's a seedy side of the internet. And look, it went from 10 years ago, kids giving their parents credit card numbers to their quote unquote online friends who were then running up a bill. And then it went into this blackmail thing where it's like, oh, I'll show you this picture if you show me that picture, and I'll show you this. And then they say, well, now that I get your pictures and I got them saved, then now you better give me money, give me mom's money, give me dad's money, or I'm going to share this to everyone in your school. BZ said, your kids should never be on social media and no phones until they're 18. Yeah, that was great in 1995, but it's just not real life now. A lot of things change. So you have to educate and being involved with your kids and showing them the dangers and make it a responsibility. And you have the power to oversee that responsibility, to make sure, like Cosmic Bard said, you were keeping them in line. You were out ahead of everything. It's a responsibility to the parent. Because the last thing you want is your kid to get 18, go off to college, and all of a sudden have access to everything on the internet and no way to kind of navigate that with knowledge. It's just like, I mean, honestly, it's just like raising a child with firearm safety their whole life and making sure that they know how to be safe with it, how to use it. If they're really, really interested, you bring them out in the range, yada, yada, yada. If they're not interested, you just give them the basics, etc. I think that same responsibility comes to the internet and phones with young children. It's going to be there either in front of you or at somebody else's house. They're going to have access to games. They're going to have access to a cell phone. I mean, look, you can say no cell phone, but here's the alternative. 15, they go buy a $40 burner phone that has access to the internet, and they just do it anyways. Or if you're not paying attention to it, they get access to the Wi-Fi in your house and they're still doing all that stuff behind your back. Whereas if you were engaging with them up front, you can have control of the situation. You can raise them to be smart, and you can raise them to be responsible and show them that it is something that they have to respect and be smart with, or it can be dangerous for them. My brother-in-law did that. My 16-year-old niece still doesn't have a smartphone. Yeah, you know, I'll tell you, with my child who has a phone, we have unbelievable amount of safeguards. The other thing I have is I can absolutely see where my daughter is at any point. I can absolutely go in and see what she's doing on her phone. I can go in and see a lot of things. Hiding from this and keeping it from it. And my internet at the house too. I have things flagged in my internet at the house and blocked. Hiding from this and acting like it's going to go away, or I don't think that's the right choice. I think you give them the information they need. I think you're honest with them about the dangers of the internet and who's out there on the internet, and go from there. It's just, yeah, they don't need social network apps. I'm totally down with that. I think all the social network apps are garbage. They don't need to be on Roblox. There's a couple other games they don't need to be on. I have a list somewhere of games that are absolutely forbidden. But that doesn't mean that you can't teach them to be safe and responsible for it, just like everything else. And look, like I said, if it's just like everything else with kids, if you don't control the apparatus of information, they are going to seek it on their own. I can tell you, I remember growing up as a kid. I remember growing up with budding technology, and however early it was. And once you realized you had access to it after never had it before, then all of a sudden, people can go crazy with it. BZ says, my name has never been on the internet. Yeah, my name wasn't on the internet for a long time, but people seem to use it all the time now. My full name, no matter what, on the internet, which is kind of comical and or amusing. I got to take a break though. And when we come back, I have so much more. I want to talk about these Chicago judge and a New York judge and why both of them suck on levels that are completely vile, disgusting, and horrible. You're watching The Edge of Liberty. We'll be right back.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
I'm going to play that again. And Sackhead Sean, you might be saying, what did we just watch? Well, I'm going to tell you what you just watched. What you just watched was an attempted murder of a police officer in New York City. The suspect, by the way, the police officer's name is Officer Richarian Diaz, who the suspect, 25-year-old Sahara Dula, ran over because, quote, he would not move. He would not move. I told the cop I wanted to go straight and he wouldn't move, so I hit him. I did it on purpose, was her quote during the investigations. She went on to say, fuck these cops. He wouldn't move. Fuck these cops. It's a lesson to him. And hopefully he doesn't want to be a cop anymore. So you now have an established motive, excited utterances, or maybe they were done under oath or under Miranda. I don't know. Maybe it was under oath in court. Either way, you have an admission that she intentionally ran over this police officer. She used a weapon, a large vehicle, as he was trying to direct traffic. He was not being unreasonable by directing traffic. For whatever reason, the road was closed. And she decided to use her vehicle as a weapon and attempt to murder him. She's going to do, wait for it, because it's Alvin Bragg, it's New York, Letitia James. Alvin Bragg is a Soros DA, soft on crime, yada, yada, yada. She is going to do a whopping 2 years in prison for attempted murder of a police officer in New York. You want Mandami? This ain't going to get better, folks. According to the PBA president, the Police Benevolent Association of New York, the sentence is not nearly enough. The individual tried to run down a New York City police officer. She could have killed him. The Supreme Court judge in Manhattan who issued the sentence is named Melissa T. Lewis, no relation whatsoever. So you have shitbag judge number 1 for tonight. And now I want to introduce you to shitbag judge number 2. Her name's Sarah L. Ellis. She was appointed, you're going to be shocked by this, in 2013 by President Barack Obama to the U.S. District Court out there in Chicago. She has now ordered Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bravino to appear every weekday evening in her courtroom to brief her on enforcement operations in Chicago. But that's not it. That's not the only thing this little angel is doing. And I use that term so loosely. She's also demanded all use of force reports that ICE has written since September 2nd be turned over by this Friday. The judge further ordered that Bovino, the head of Border Patrol, be wearing a body camera himself. There was the state court judge who ruled or made a ruling last week that Border Patrol could not use tear gas when the masses of people were trying to free detainees and were assaulting, battering, and had attempted to murder CBP agents in New York. And the state judge said, well, you can't use tear gas in that situation because it affects other people, blah, 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 which is exactly, it's supposed to clear the area. That's what it's designed to do. CS in a canister is supposed to clear out a bunch of fucking people who are being violent and or trying to hurt you. I'll tell you right now, the last thing you want to start doing is limiting non-lethal use of force by the Border Patrol or any law enforcement officer. Anytime you're taking away more and more non-lethal options, you are getting closer and closer to lethal options. But I know this judge's angle. I know what she's going for. She's trying to, this is intimidation of Border Patrol. This is intimidation of the chief, because Bovino, because she's a Democrat. This is lawfare. She wants him to pull his troops out of Chicago right now and stop. That's what this is. She's trying to scare him. So the body cam thing is, if she sees something she wants to act on or have an investigation opened on, now they're all scared now to go out and do their job and use force. If they're going to be reviewed constantly, even if things that aren't use of force requirements, if she finds an issue, then she can start targeting the specific Border Patrol officers, trying to get them to not do their job. Now, again, I've talked about this a bunch of times. The Border Patrol and ICE agents right now are acting at direction of the executive branch, which is lawful. They are enforcing the laws that Congress passed and a president signed and are officially on the books as of right now. Everything that they're doing is legal. Your emotions don't fucking matter in any of that. They're legal. They have the right to go after illegals in this country. But you have a woman who thinks because she sits behind a desk and she was pointed behind Obama and she thinks that she's important, now using her position to intimidate law enforcement officers from legally doing their job. She wasn't elected. She doesn't write law. She doesn't create law. Case law can work, but she doesn't write law. She doesn't make it appear out of nowhere. And she certainly has no power over Border Patrol outside of legal actual proceedings. This is an intimidation tactic. This is a threat, and she needs to be removed from the bench immediately. Now, look, if somebody goes into a federal court and makes an allegation that Border Patrol used force in a way that is unlawful, okay, you have to, They want to file a suit. You have to hear it, whatever. They file their complaints. It goes up the chain of command, yada, yada, yada. That's the proper way of doing it. Even if it's bullshit and the body cams will show it, it's still the proper way. But no, she's trying to control the border patrol. She was not appointed to it. She's never done customs and immigration. She's an Obama flunky sitting on this U.S. District Court, and she's, in my opinion, operating way outside her color of authority, because she's now creating procedures inside the Border Patrol that are not done internally. She's trying to write their operational procedures. The state judge trying to limit the use of force. All of these things are lawfare. They have no right being involved in this on this level. A judge ordering daily operation reports and mandating the script for tear gas deployment isn't oversight. It's field command in a robe, 100%. BZ said another leftist chick trying to control society, destroy society. Yeah, this is all, and we saw this with every case that gets filed where the Democrats file them in places that there's an Obama judge sitting there. They do this on purpose, but this is different. She's just acting out in front. They have, Border Patrol has SOPs that go through the Department of Justice, and they all get approved standard operating procedures. They have use of force guidelines, again, through the Department of Justice. They all get approved. 1 million lawyers look at them before they approve it, and that's what they're teaching at FLETC, right? They have rules and procedures in place for all of this. How they report their use of force, who they report it to. And Judge Ellis thinks that she is the higher authority. If you don't think we have an issue with activist judges in this country, right there, that is a major issue. What do I got? About 20 minutes left. Orty's going to love this. We're going to run right up the street to the state capitol from where I'm sitting right now. Gavin Newsom, we all know he's running in 2028. How do we know that? Because it's Gavin Newsom, and he even though he lies constantly, he's still not good at it. We can all see it. Gavin Newsom released a new image of himself. I'm going to give you a quick show of what it might look like, and this from the SHR Media website. Oh, hold on. No, it's not. Now it is. That's essentially Gavin now in certain situations when he wants to be there. Gav, as I'm calling him. Why do I say this? He went on a podcast called All the Smoke, and it's former NBA players who, I'm not mocking them for having anybody on, because look, you get a good guest, you get a good guest. You get a noteworthy guest, you get a noteworthy guest. Gavin did what Kamala was doing, and it did cost her. He code switched and rewrote his history. And I wrote an article about this on shrmedia.com. You can find it over there. But he absolutely just became a different person. Gavin Newsom grew up rich. His father was an appellate judge. He was on the state Supreme Court for a while. He also was best friends with the Getty family. The Getty was a notoriously wealthy oil tycoon in California. I remember growing up, even on the East Coast, there were Getty gas stations. They were everywhere. That was back when the Democrats weren't blaming gas and oil for every problem in the country. But that's neither here nor there. Gavin's best friend, a son of the Gettys, Gordon, who is a billionaire right now because of his father. He is also who he partnered with and has been lifelong friends with this kid to open the infamous Plump Jack Winery there in Napa that Gavin owns half of. Gavin, his family used to run around with the Browns, Governor Brown, Moonbeam, the Pelosi's. His family was tied into the Pelosi's via marriage for a while. His family hung around with Senator Feinstein. He was tied into everything from the day he was born. Yes, dad and mom divorced, and dad moved up to somewhere up Shingle Springs, or actually it was Dutch Flat. I did the research. Going into the Getty family for the dad. He was the Getty family personal lawyer, the father, not Gavin, rumored to have been the one who delivered the ransom to release the Getty that was kidnapped. Yeah, he was tied in to this billion-dollar family from the day he was born. And yes, he worked jobs in high school, probably because his father or his mother said, no, you're going to learn how to make a buck, trying to be responsible one way or the other. He worked at like a car wash or something. He played sports. Okay. So did a lot of other kids, but he did not grow. Oh, he went to school in it's Marin County. Sorry, is it Marin? No, it's not Marin County. Oh God, he went to school in what? Millbrae, just north of Mill Valley in California. A rich, unbelievably rich neighborhood. It's still rich to this day. It was rich back then. That's where Gavin grew up. He was not somebody who grew up poor. He was not somebody who was just having to make ends meet. If you look at his Wikipedia, it says that Gavin had to work jobs in high school to help put food on the family. His governor's bio said that as well. Bill Ayers was his foster parent with his parents after divorcing, and he lived with Ayers in between homes. Yeah, if you don't know who Bill Ayers is, other rich guy, piece of shit, leftist, look him up. Yeah, Gavin has been raised in the Democrat political circle from a kid. He never had a struggle a day in his life. I don't give a shit what anything says out there. We all knew Gavin's been rich his whole life. And then he gets on this podcast.
Paying the bills, man. And it was just like hustling. And so I was out there kind of raising myself, turning on the TV, started, just getting obsessed, sitting there with the Wonder Bread and 5 stacks of,
it's like the White Stack 5 story.
Come on. Kraft macaroni and cheese. This is how I grew up, bro.
Yes, Gavin, you were 100% not living on macaroni and cheese and eating stacks of Wonder Bread. And if you were, by the way, you still weren't poor. I grew up eating mac and cheese. I grew up eating Wonder Bread. I was not necessarily what you would call a poor kid. We were lower middle class. But if you had sandwich bread and you had meat or even peanut butter and jelly to put into that sandwich bread, you were not a poor child, contrary to what Gavin said. Now, Gavin tries to tell you this was him. Come on. But he was not a poor black child. Gavin was a very rich, affluent, young, white child who grew up with more access than most other kids will see in their entire life, which is why he's worth an incredible amount of money. So Gavin's out now rebranding himself. Prop 50's going. He's making all the podcast things. He's doing all the stuff that politicians do. I call that his soft launch for 2028. That was his soft launch. As soon as a politician starts breaking out whatever code they're trying to be for a presidential election, which is what he was doing, I don't care what they say, that was his soft launch. So then, as if that wasn't enough, and this goes to show you just Gavin will lie about anything at any given time, any given moment to benefit himself. And if I was a really good host and I was awesome at this, I would have had this primed, prepped, and ready. But unfortunately, I hit the wrong button. This is Gavin on CNN. I want to talk about this for a second.
And this is how you started that podcast.
Literally last night, trying to put my son to bed. He's like, no, Dad, what time? What time's Charlie going to be here? What time? And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, I'm coming.
So let's recap just for a moment, please. His son's 13, and that story clearly was enthralled and like Charlie Kirk, wanted to go to the interview, the Gavin podcast interview that Charlie Kirk joined him on. and was unbelievably excited about it, so much so that he wanted to miss school. 13 years old, like Charlie Kirk. That's what he said to Charlie Kirk. Now watch what he recants and says to CNN. Tell me if you can spot the difference.
That's your son, obviously a fan of Charlie Kirk. What was the conversation like between you and your son after Charlie Kirk was assassinated?
Well, he called me, I don't know how he got a phone, but he called me from school that day, really alarmed. And all his friends were around the phone that wanted me to somehow express or understand what was going on.
First, I want to point out the first potential lie in this story. He called me from a phone. I don't know how he got a phone. Yes, a lot of kids probably have their parents' cell phone numbers memorized. I know my child does. That being said, it is not commonplace for kids to pick up a landline phone and dial their parents' number. So I immediately was like, well, that's weird. That's not a normal 13, 14-year-old thing to do, but maybe it was.
Wanted to know if he was dead. He wasn't a fan of him.
He wasn't a fan with him, but he wanted so badly to go to the interview to meet him. So now all of a sudden the story's changing. And it's amazing to me, once again, that these politicians, and he showed him the clip. That's the other thing. He showed him the clip just before Gavin is saying all this. This isn't like that interview played off 6 months ago and he cold dropped a couple of questions about that interview. No, CNN just paid this fucking clip.
Much as it was familiar with him.
Oh,
and it was very revelatory for me because he's also out there. My son is 11, 12 years old. He's sitting there talking to me about
now
not just Charlie Kirk, but folks.
Right? I have no idea, for the record. I didn't even look it up because it's not important. I have no idea how old his kid really is. I don't give a shit. But I can tell you, when you ask me the age of my children, I know the age of my children. Now, if it's a month after their birthday, okay, I may slip up and say, oh, no, it's actually 15, not 14. I forgot. But to say he's 11 or 12 at the time, the interview wasn't that long ago. It was last year, late last year. I don't even think it's been a year since that interview. And just act like and not know his kid's age when he just saw what Gavin Newsom, said. My son was 13. He will lie about any fucking thing under the sun in order to endear himself to whomever he is in front of.
Like Andrew Tate, and he's, sort of beyond Joe Rogan, in many ways, sort of Facebook in so many respects, of sort of this novelty of the pod, manosphere, et cetera. And it was so interesting to me in that context that he knew so much about Kirk. And that was a true.
He knew so much about Charlie Kirk because he liked him. That's the only reason why you find out you either have a loathing for somebody, which is why I follow so much about Gavin Newsom, or you have an immense admiration, which is why you'd be so excited at 13 years old to go meet potentially what sounded like maybe a hero on some level.
Story. I didn't know what he was staying or stand for. He didn't even have a strong position himself. But
so he knew about him. He was excited about him. He wanted to go meet him and see him, but he didn't really know what he was about.
But he felt like Charlie was talking to him and other young men and boys. And I think the Democratic Party.
Do you hear what he said there? Now he does know. His son does know what Charlie's about because he felt like Charlie was talking to him, which I agree with. Charlie was talking to that age group, encouraging them to be good people, encouraging them into their faith. That was part of the crew that Charlie was trying to reach. But Gavin said he went from he was really, really excited, knew who he was, to he just didn't know who he was. He was just excited by the podcast sphere, man, and doing all the hand gestures. To, well, he watched them. It's amazing to me. And by the way, this CNN interviewer, Michael, whatever the fuck his name is, for not pushing back on anything, tells you everything you need to know about him.
Has failed in that respect. We have abandoned our young men and boys in terms of focusing on them, telling them they matter and we care.
Here is now the switch that the Democrats have been starting to slowly roll out over the last year. They realized after what happened with Kamala that they lost young men. They lost young men from high school age on. There was just a story this week at how many older voting males are walking away from the Democratic Party. They know this is a massive problem for them. And what he's telling you right now is not we need to embrace them and win them back because we care about them as people. No. Just like illegals, just like so many other groups, SNAP benefit people, blah, 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 blah. It's all about voting. It's all about getting them back for your personal gain, for the party's gain, for the power gain, not for what you can actually do for these young men to better their life.
Young folks are in a crisis in this country. First generation in our lifetime, 30 and younger, not doing better than their parents. Suicide rates, educational attainment, dropouts, deaths of despair across the spectrum. This is code red.
Hey, Mike, good night. Thank you for joining us in chat. I appreciate it. First and foremost, no, this isn't the first generation. This is the second generation. The generation before this was the ones that were started to stay home longer, which is why Obamacare carried over to kids were 22. And then they had the ruling that if they lived at home, I think it was up to 26. So that's a lie.
And if that happened to any other or group, Democrats would be jumping over themselves to identify the needs of those groups. So I appreciated that. It's one of the reasons I had Charlie on, not to.
No, it wasn't. You had Charlie on because you wanted to go to war with somebody and then you met him. You wanted that to be combative. He's going to deny that. He was going to try to show Charlie Kirk up. And if you watched, I watched some of it when it aired. No, he never fully engaged Charlie because he knew he was not going to win. But Gavin is saying, amazingly, is we don't have the numbers. This tells you what their inner polling is. We do not have the young numbers with young males right now in order to win. That's what this is. That's what the Democrats, that's what Gavin Newsom is telling you right now. BZ, who created the explosion of youthful suicides? 100%. As said before, it started under Obama. When you start ridiculing a specific group of people, and then it just got worse through the years, and high school's telling them, if you're a male, you're useless, and all of you are rapists no matter what. Even if you don't act, your thoughts, this, that, and the other thing. Just belittling teens who, by the way, were in college for this last election and voted for Trump, then you're useless. The Democrats did that for years. That was the straw man. That, next to law enforcement, was the straw man in this country for years. And now, because they absolutely got their dicks handed to them, some might have been cut off and handed to them, they're like, oh shit, we as a party have a problem with young males, and now we have to act. And now, all of a sudden, the Democrats care.
Debate him, but to get in under the hood and to understand why he and others have been so successful in that space. And that was demonstrably example by the outcome of the election, and how Trump also exploited that, not with policy, but through attention. And I think,
as we said before, when it comes to Donald Trump, and yeah, no, he said it's amazing what he'll admit to. I didn't have Charlie Kirk on to really talk to him. I wanted to get under the hood. I wanted to find out how he approached youth, which tells you how stupid Democrats are, because all you have to do is watch Charlie Kirk and you can figure out how he was successful. And yes, Trump's whole rise to the first term was because he actually contacted, met with, and touched, both metaphorically and physically, people who felt ignored by government for years, people who felt like they were the throwaway, the taxpayers who were grinding themselves for 80 hours a week and then going home and having Biden say, well, when we downsize your job at the coal mine, you can always learn to code. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah, that's how Trump did it. He met those people. He found out what they needed. He appealed to them because he actually paid attention to them. He put them center stage. He realized that the blue-collar workers in this country, many of which are young males, are the backbone of this country. They try to say, oh, it's always small business. Yeah, small business is huge, but it's a small portion of it. Every sector has an importance. But when you're turned around and you're finally recognizing people who have been ostracized on a national level by presidents, leaders in Congress, every single academia. I told that story when I had my guest on, Miss Lisa, about the young man who I had a beer with a couple weeks ago, who talked about how all of his friends have gone away because he's not a flaming leftist in California. He's had a fight and lost all of them. His time in college, where all of his teachers, once they found out his political affiliation, attacked him and ostracized him. He's 30 years old now, and he says, all my friends are just older people because they actually will talk to me no matter, even if we don't always agree. This is what the Democrats have done to society, and now they're begging for them to come back. And I'll tell you, to the young people of America, I'm going to give you 2 words that you can say to the Democratic Party, and it's fuck you. You had your chance. We're done. We're out. And it's amazing to me to watch them just scramble. It's great. It tastes delicious. It needs to keep happening. Don't let up on the gas. Keep going. Folks, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this evening. Please like and subscribe the episode wherever platform you are watching from. Thank you to our friends over at KLRN for the simulcast. Appreciate you. Make sure you check out every Tuesday and Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. You have Mission Ready Men's Show, Big E. You have Tuesday, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHI Media Network. Mondays and Fridays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. You have the Reaver of Common Sense, my man Jersey Joe, and of course me, Monday and Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. But that's not it. No. The Lost Wanderer. He's on Fridays on our YouTube from KLRN. Appreciate having him. And his show is amazing. You got to sit down and watch it. It's really, really, really fun. So check that out. Check everything out. Have a great week. I'll see you Monday. Take care. Bye.